show you cities forward and ask you if you can identify?
Yes, sir, that is my report.
We offer city 4. Is that admitted?
Yes, it's submitted.
No further questions.
Officer Schulmer, you were the first to arrive on the scene, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And the first person that you spoke to was Mr. Floyd.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that correct? Now, Mr. Floyd explained to you that they'd had a dispute that evening. And now, at the time that you arrived on the scene and you first began having this conversation, he was standing in Ms. Carney's yard. Is that correct?
No, ma'am, he was in the roadway.
Now, after you received Mr. Floyd's version of the events, that's when you went back to Ms. Carney. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. Whenever I first got there, all he told me was that little bit of he just wanted his vehicle. That's when I talked to Ms. Carney.
So that's all he told you when you went to talk to Ms. Carney?
Yes.
So you talked to Ms. Carney, and she specifically told you she did not want him on her property, correct?
Yes.
And that he had in fact been trespassing.
She told me he did not want she did not want him on the property.
But and during this time that the officers were there, he was in fact on the property.
He did come on the property to speak to me.
And so he was in fact trespassing.
Speaking to me, he was talking to me about the event, my investigation.
Now, if she told him that she didn't want him on the property, knowing that they had had an altercation, was he not trespassing
Objection.
on the property?
You've asked him to answer.
At that time.
He was speaking to me about our investigation.
Was he not trespassing?
Objection. It's the third, fourth time.
Yeah, we got to speed this along. We're not going to ask the same question over and over.
I don't believe that the question has been answered.
Answer the question.
The term trespass, she said what he was doing there, and it was at the police directive. That is not a trespass. It is, and if
Okay.
you want to ask for a legal conclusion from a witness, then I'm going to object.
She's
okay.
an officer of the law. What do you mean a legal
I'm going to
conclusion?
remind y'all, you're not to speak to each other. You're to speak to us.
Board, I would request that we have a yes or no answer on whether or not Mr. Floyd was trespassing.
Go ahead and ask the question one more time.
Was Mr. Floyd trespassing?
At that time, the only person who had told me that she told him not to be on the property was herself. The way our policy works for us to arrest somebody from trespassing is that we have to be there and witness the person whose property it is, tell the person they're banning that they are banned from the property.
Did you not say, though, that he was on the property?
Yes, ma'am, he
Okay.
was.
And did he not tell you that she had told him not to come back
Not
on
at
the
that
property?
time.
But at some point during the evening, he did.
Yes, and after that, he was not on the property. And
So you knew that Mr. Floyd himself told you that Ms. Carney told him to stay off the property.
later, yes.
And yet he did come on the property while you were there.
Yes.
So at what point would you consider that to be in violation of the law? I mean, it seems to me that
I'm
you
going to
were
object
so
to your
concerned.
interpretation of her action.
It seems to me that you were so concerned about the removal of this vehicle that you weren't concerned about the trespass.
I'm going to object to
Is
making
that
statements.
correct?
That's not a question.
This is
What
a
seems to
question.
her is not a question.
Let her finish the question.
Thank you. Is that not true?
Can you repeat the question?
Exactly. You were more concerned with the removal of Mr. Floyd's property that was on Ms. Carney's property than you were the trespass or the physical altercation in which he was the aggressor.
No, ma'am. I was more concerned. I mean, at that time, it was obvious to any officer that that was a domestic dispute, whether it was a domestic violence or not. And our policy and our way of handling that is to separate the parties. Yes, I wanted him to get in his vehicle so he could leave the property and the situation would be ended.
Well, wouldn't that have been the easiest solution to this situation? Just remove him, the trespasser, from the property.
For him to be able to get in his vehicle and leave would be the best situation.
Well, do you know that it's been the law since the 1800s that you can't trespass to collect your own personal property?
Because you can't trespass to get your own personal property.
Correct.
At that point in
I
time,
would object that that's not the law.
Well, I'll submit to the board that it is.
Well, go ahead.
All
I'm
right.
not stopping. I'm just objecting that it's not, that we have a police action here, and police are entitled to go into that property and deal with the complaint that was made to them, and they don't have to leave like she's told them to.
Mr. White, speak to us.
Yes, sir.
Board, I will show you the case of Garrett versus Valley Sand and Gravel, which cites the law going back to the 1800s, stating that you cannot trespass on a person's property to collect personal property. And in fact,
Are you putting this into evidence?
yes, I'll mark that
I'm going to
as,
object.
I'm
No.
going to mark that as Corporal Carney's exhibit number
That,
1.
I'm going to object. It's not an exhibit. It's a case.
Well,
Cases are not exhibits.
it's an exhibit. The board is
You can-
free to, where is a rule that says I can't enter a case as an exhibit?
Well, it's like first year law school. But if it's law, you can certainly tell them what the law is, but it's not an exhibit. The fact is
That's an
is
exhibit
that,
if we want to, Mr. White.
Okay. Once again, I've talked to you several times about not talking to each other. We will take this under consideration, whether it's an exhibit or not an exhibit.
Thank you, board. Now, when you arrived at the scene, you called for backup, didn't you?
no, sir, no, ma'am, they were dispatched to me,
Who dispatched them?
dispatchers.
Okay. How did they know to call for backup?
It is policy for a signal 26 or a signal 11, you have 2 officers sent.
Exactly, 2 and not 6 as we have here.
With it being a off-duty officer, it is routine for them to send a supervisor to make sure the supervisor is aware.
But that's 2 officers, correct? The one responding and a supervisor.
No, it would be your primary officer, the backup, and the supervisor.
So 3.
Yes, ma'am.
And we had 6 officers on the scene.
One was riding with Officer Truitt, who was my backup. That was his probationary police officer.
Now, was Ms. Carney in any way threatening Mr. Cloyd?
No,
She wasn't posing any physical threat to anyone, was she?
no.
Why was Mr. Cloyd treated as a victim in this situation when it was her property and there was trespass and he was the physical aggressor?
He called us to the scene. We asked his version of what was going on. We asked her. With it being a city police vehicle, that's when the sergeants and lieutenants got involved.
Well, do you know when she moved her city vehicle there?
I was told by Floyd that the vehicle was not there when they left to go to the hospital.
So, but you don't know when or why, or even if it was moved there during any kind of altercation between them. You just know that it was there before they went to the hospital. Is that correct?
No, the vehicle, her vehicle,
Yes.
I was told by
that's
Mr.
her.
Floyd when they left the hospital, the police vehicle was in the grass, that it was moved when she got back while he was walking.
I have no further questions.
Any further questions, Mr. White?
no, sir. Call this witness. Call her Monica Carney. Will you state your name for the board, please?
Ramona Carney.
And how are you employed?
I'm not employed with the city of Dublin any longer.
I'm asking, how are you employed?
I'm in the military in the U.S. Army Reserves.
Okay. Is that the uniform you're wearing today?
That is,
Your Army Reserve uniform?
that's correct.
Are you on duty today?
No, I am not,
Why are you wearing the uniform?
because we are allowed to.
Okay. Are you married?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And who's your husband?
Mr. Kenneth Floyd.
How long have you been married?
We were married on the 15th of February this year.
Congratulations. Where do you live?
In Louisville, Kentucky.
Where did you live in December of last year?
2601 Stringer Street here in Dothan.
Okay. Who else lived there with you?
My son.
And were you employed by the Dothan Police Department on that at that time?
I was.
And was your employment terminated in December of 2013
It was.
with the city of Dothan? On what charge?
Gross insubordination.
What is insubordination?
Are you asking my personal opinion on what insubordination?
I'm asking you, do you know what it is?
Not without reading the city's definition of what insubordination is.
Are you familiar with City of Dothan PGOs?
I am.
What did the Dothan City Attorney, City PGOs say it is?
I couldn't tell you without reading.
Did you receive a copy of the PGOs?
Yes, I did.
Are they given to all DPD officers?
To my knowledge.
Okay. And do you know which PGO deals with insubordination?
No, sir, not off the top of my head.
Let me show you what's been marked as City Exhibit 5 and ask you if you can identify it.
Now, see it before the.
Let me give you a copy. Can you identify that?
This is says, Dothan Police Department General Order 100-50, Code of Conduct.
Would you turn the page, please? Let me direct your attention to the bottom of the page under insubordination. If you would read A, please.
I'd like to just object, if I may, to the extent that there's been no foundation laid for this. Now, I'm not sure if this is the current general order of the department, and just I'd like that caveat in here prior to testifying to something that we don't know whether it's the current policy.
So we don't know what?
That we're not sure if this is the current existing policy for the city of Dothan. Mr. White is requesting Corporal Carney to testify to this, so I just want that objection made for the record. There's been no foundation laid for this exhibit.
Go ahead.
A reads, an officer may be disciplined or discharged for his speech or conduct before a superior officer if it is bitter, discourteous, abusive, profane, or threatening. Failing to carry out a lawful order when directed is insubordination.
Would you continue, please, and read paragraph B just below paragraph A?
Paragraph B reads, compliance with lawful orders. The department is organized with a clearly defined chain of command. Obedience to a superior's lawful command is essential for the safe and prompt performance of law enforcement operations. Lawful orders, commands, rules, regulations, or directives shall be followed by all employees.
Y'all can see 5. So it's clear that the Dothan Police Department PGOs do not allow insubordination, is it not?
Was there a question for me? I'm sorry.
Does it, or does it not?
Can you repeat that question, please?
Do the PGOs that you are under allow insubordination?
Well, again, I don't know that that's a copy of the actual
Okay.
PGO that
But,
was.
so you don't know? You don't know if insubordination is allowed or not under PGOs?
I don't know that that particular policy was in effect at the time that I was employed.
I'll ask you one more time, just so the record can indicate whether or not.
To object that the question has been asked and answered. You're bothering witnesses.
No, it's not necessary. Do you know whether PGOs allow insubordination?
I would have to say that they probably would not.
Probably would not. That's your answer? Probably would not. Okay, thank you. On December 9th, did you refuse a direct order from a superior officer to move your assigned vehicle?
No, sir, I did not.
You did not refuse any order.
No, sir.
Now, you heard the testimony from Officer Shulman, who said you did. Was she lying?
Yes, sir, I heard her testimony, and yes, sir, she was incorrect.
Okay. Were you asked to move your vehicle?
No, sir, I was not asked to move my vehicle.
Okay, so Sergeant Wazort did not ask you to move your vehicle?
No, sir, he did not.
And Lieutenant Long did not order you to move your assigned police vehicle?
No, sir, Lieutenant Long asked for the keys.
Okay. I'm asking you, though, did he tell you to move that vehicle?
No, sir, he did not.
Was he afraid of you?
That's a question you have to ask him.
Did he look like he was afraid of you?
I would say no.
Okay. Do you question his authority to tell you to move it?
Do I question, or what was your question? Do I question, or did I question?
Do you question his authority to have told you to move it?
At that time, I wasn't on duty.
Well, just yes or no. So you do question?
He had no authority over me. I wasn't on duty.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm asking. He had no authority to tell you. Number one, he didn't tell you. You're telling this board he didn't tell you to move it, and you're saying even if he did, he didn't have authority to tell you. Now, which is it? Is it both?
Check.
You can answer.
First off, I was not on duty, so Lieutenant Long had no authority over
Okay.
me.
Right.
I did not question his authority because I was not on duty.
Okay. So you're saying that not only did he not even tell you to move it, even if he had, he didn't have any right to tell you to move it. Is that what you're telling this board here today?
I'm telling you that I was not on duty, therefore Lieutenant Long had no authority over me to instruct me in a police capacity.
Did you talk to Major Parrish?
I did.
What did Major Parrish tell you?
Major Parrish advised that Lieutenant Long was the supervisor in charge of the scene, and he wanted me to comply with Lieutenant Long's decision, whatever that might be.
About what?
The situation at hand.
What situation at hand? What was the situation?
Whatever decision Lieutenant Long made regarding how Mr. Coy's vehicle was going to be removed from my property.
So he was going to decide that.
That is what Major Parrish stated.
And what was his decision on how to do that?
What was whose decision?
Lieutenant Long.
Lieutenant Long's decision was to have one of his officers remove Mr. Coy's vehicle off of my property.
Okay. And you were totally cooperative
In what way?
with the car being moved?
I did not agree with their decision on how to have the vehicle removed from my property.
But I'm asking you, did you cooperate with these officers?
Yes, I cooperated.
You cooperated when you stood behind it and blocked Mr. Cloyd's vehicle?
I was on my property. I wasn't standing behind anything. I was standing on my property.
Well, they were all on. I mean, everybody was on your property, weren't they? I mean, were the police officers on your property?
They were.
Were they trespassing?
They were.
The police were trespassing?
They were.
Okay. Did you arrest them?
No, I did not.
Did you have the power to arrest him?
Not at that time,
Why not? You run.
because I was handling a personal matter.
Well, wait a minute. You're off duty, but you're saying you did not have authority to arrest him, or did you?
That's correct, I did not.
Well, you've taken police action before when you were off duty, weren't you? Haven't you?
Yes, sir, I have.
Yeah. Can you tell the board about that?
Anytime you take police action when it's not a personal matter or doesn't involve you personally, you are allowed to act on it, whatever that violation is. If it involves you personally, we have been instructed to call for additional officers to handle those situations.
Let me show you what's been marked as C6 and ask you if you can identify that.
Yes, sir.
What is it?
It's a traffic citation.
Who wrote it?
This was written by myself and Officer Lacey Schumer.
Okay. Were you on duty?
No, sir, I was not.
You wrote a traffic ticket while you were off duty?
Yes, sir, I did.
On your ticket book?
No, I think this was Officer Schumer's ticket book.
Okay. So you decided that you wanted to issue somebody a ticket for what?
The violation was failure to yield right of way.
Okay, so you're in a police vehicle or your own personal vehicle?
At the time, my personal vehicle.
You're on your own personal vehicle then, off duty, and you get Officer Schulmerich to loan you her ticket book so you can write somebody a ticket?
Yes, sir.
We'd offer that.
Okay.
So there they were, all trespassing. And also, Mr. Cloyd had committed these crimes, knocking over your flower pot and grabbing your arm, and you didn't arrest anybody.
No, sir.
Okay. But clearly, you've shown that you're willing to take police action against people when you're off duty before, have you not?
Again, we're instructed to inform the on-duty patrol officers when you're in an off-duty capacity enforcing a crime that you witnessed to have taken place.
Okay,
Which is
well-
what was done in that particular
Okay.
case.
So, when you claim that you were the victim and you were not the aggressor, did you call the police
On what?
this occasion?
No, I did not call the police.
Why didn't you call the police?
I didn't feel they were needed.
Okay. You didn't feel they were needed.
No.
Thank you. And did you ever go and make any charges against Mr. Cloyd?
No.
Why not?
I didn't feel it was necessary.
Didn't feel it was necessary. So you weren't a victim at all, were you?
Yes, sir, I was.
Oh, you were a victim, but you weren't. Okay. Did you call a tow truck or try to call a tow truck?
Yes, sir, I did.
Why?
To have Mr. Cloyd's vehicle removed from my driveway.
And in your judgment, at that time, when you were a police officer, was that the most reasonable course of action?
That was a course of action available to me.
Was that the most reasonable course of action?
That was a course of action that was available.
I'll take it that as a no. Thank you.
Gotcha.
When this man...
Why, ask her the question
Yes, sir.
and let her respond, instead of you answering your own question.
Yes, sir. Was it reasonable to put this man out on the side of the road to make him walk for miles when you had just taken him to the hospital for the flu?
Objection, this has nothing to do with the reason why we're here.
State of mind certainly does.
State of mind.
Absolutely. Was that reasonable?
Was it reasonable to do what, sir?
put him out on the road miles from your house and make him walk when you just got him out of the hospital?
It was reasonable for me to ask him to get out of my vehicle.
And make him walk 2 miles or 3 miles?
I
Or,
didn't make him do anything, sir.
oh, you just wanted to leave and didn't care what happened to him?
I asked him to get out of my vehicle.
Okay, was that reasonable?
Yes, sir,
Okay, why?
because he was in my vehicle, and I
Okay.
didn't want him in my vehicle.
What did he do wrong?
We had a disagreement.
Objection form, relevance.
Well, this is certainly relevant as to why she acted the way she did toward this man.
The board always
Answer the
say
question.
that we're relevant, what's relevant here is the gross insubordination charge. And the events that occurred on Ms. Carney's property related to the city of Dothan Police Department.
Ask your question once more. We're not
Is
going to
that-
go too far down this road. Mr.
Okay.
White.
Well, the testimony so far is that there was a dispute, and that dispute was relayed to the police officer who just testified. Now I'm asking her version. We've heard Mr. Cloyd's version through Officer Schulmerich, and now I'm asking her version of the same testimony.
Exactly. Go ahead.
Okay. So the testimony was that you took him to the hospital, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right. Was he sick?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you get a look on his telephone?
Objection.
Answer the question.
I asked to use his phone.
Okay. And did you see something on there that bothered you?
Object to relevance, once again.
We've already talked about this with Ms. Shulman, and we're getting her version of the story.
There was a message that came to his phone.
What did it say?
That stated, "Hey, Luke."
Hey, boo. Did that bother you?
It concerned me, yes.
Why?
Mr. Cloyd and I were engaged to be married.
Was it from another woman?
I assumed.
You assumed it was from another woman, and you didn't like him getting emails from another woman.
I assumed it was from another woman according to the name.
Okay. Did you confront him about it in the hospital?
I did ask him, yes.
Did you, what did he say?
My objection stands to this entire line of questioning.
Moving along, Mr. White.
What did he say?
Is that something you want me to answer since you instructed?
Yes, go ahead and answer.
His response was, he wasn't going to put up with that, I believe is what he stated.
Put up with what?
You asked what his response was, that was his response.
You didn't understand what that meant?
Yes, I understood what it
Well,
meant.
what did you understand it meant?
He didn't want me questioning him.
Okay. Okay. Did he disrespect you?
Object to the form.
Mr. White, go to your next question. We're
Okay.
going a little too far down that road. As I
All right.
said.
Thank you. Did you get mad at him?
Object to the form.
Go ahead and answer the question.
I wouldn't necessarily say I got mad at him. I wanted an answer as to the reason for the conversation or the email that came to his phone.
Okay. And I believe you just told the board what that was, is that was none of your business. Is that right? So many words.
Excuse me?
It was none of your business. Is that what he told you?
No, sir, that's not what he told me.
All right. Did you put him out and leave him in the parking lot of a Northview Christian Church?
No, sir, I asked him to get out of my vehicle.
Okay. You didn't tell him. Do you know he made a statement?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You asked him politely to get out of your car,
Yes, sir.
and he was polite and he got out?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So everything was very civil?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you tell him that he could just walk back to your house?
No, sir.
What did you tell him?
Not to come back to my home.
Politely?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you politely follow him along the road making fun of him? Politely?
No, sir.
When he came back to your house, did you politely tell him to get off your property?
When he came back to my house, the conversation I had with him was to stop attempting to back his vehicle in and out of the driveway around the patrol car
Okay.
so that he would not strike the patrol vehicle.
Okay. Did you move the patrol vehicle?
Yes, I did.
Did you move it out of the way of his vehicle?
No, sir, I did not.
Who did?
Officer Brady, excuse me, Lieutenant Long moved the patrol vehicle out
Okay,
of
by the time he did that, how many police officers had come?
there were 6 officers there.
Okay. And who had the keys to that patrol vehicle until you gave them to Lieutenant Long?
I did.
So you could have moved it.
Yes, sir.
You could have. But you didn't.
At what point in time are you speaking?
Did you ever move the patrol vehicle?
I moved the vehicle before Mr. Cloyd came back to my home. I was in the process of parking the vehicle on my driveway.
Did you ever move it out of the way?
Of what?
Did you ever move it out of the way?
Of what?
Was your conduct on this occasion the basis of an internal affairs investigation?
That's
Yes,
that to the form.
Did you make a statement?
I did.
And to whom did you make that statement?
Sergeant McGill and Sergeant Donnie Smith.
Okay. That's all.
Ms. Carney,
Yes, Mr. Tyson.
who gave you the direct order to move that vehicle?
No one.
Listen, you talked to Major Parrish on the phone.
Yes, sir.
There was a sergeant, and there was a Lieutenant Scott Long.
Yes, sir.
Neither one of those guys told you to move that vehicle.
No, sir.
No one told you to move that vehicle.
No, sir.
I'm not buying that.
Lieutenant Long asked me for the keys to the car. They never asked me to move the patrol vehicle.
And in fact, Ms. Carney, didn't you offer to move the car?
I was in the process of parking the vehicle or moving the vehicle when Mr. Cloyd continued to back his vehicle up and forward. And then he stopped me from being able to move the vehicle, as like I stated. He stopped me from being able to move the vehicle when he walked around and opened the patrol car door. And at that point, he asked me to get out of the vehicle and come in the house and speak to him. And I told him no, I wasn't going to speak to him. And he called the police. At that point in time, I stopped right where the car was at that time, which was behind Mr. Cloyd's vehicle, and put the car in park and waited for the officers to arrive on the scene.
And why, Ms. Carney, did you do that?
Because in my experience as a law enforcement officer, our training and directives are you don't interfere with the scene if it becomes a criminal or anything that may involve law enforcement. You leave the scene as it is.
And it had already become a scene, had it not, because of what?
Because Mr. Cloyd had trespassed by coming back to my home after I asked him not to, and I had instructed him that I would have his vehicle removed by tow truck so that there would not be any further conflict between he and I during that evening.
So during this whole ordeal, no one gave you a direct order?
No, sir.
All those officers, no one? You were fired for refusing to obey an order to remove this car. No one never said move this car.
No, sir.
Ms. Carney, tell the board what happened in your own words.
As what happened when Mr. Floyd and I had our conversation at Northview Christian Church, Mr. Floyd indicated to me that he no longer wanted to be in a relationship with me. And by us being engaged to be married, I said, well, if that's the case, I need you to get out of my car. He got out of my car, and I told him at that point in time that his belongings I would bring to him that were at my home, and his car, I would have a tow truck come and get it off my property so that he and I would no longer have any contact. We could end it peacefully, civilly. He could go about his business. I went home, went and got his personal belongings, his suitcase, brought them back to him. By the time I made contact with him, which wasn't very long, Mr. Floyd had walked from Northview Christian Church.
Ms. Carney, I understand that we're talking about a police car
Yes, sir.
that's blocked another vehicle in your driveway.
And Ms. Carney, I want you to explain to the board is concerned about the orders.
We're
That's
concerned about that
department.
police car.
Exactly. And I want you to explain your interaction with the officers concerning moving the police car.
The police car was moved after I gave Mr. Floyd his personal belongings. Mr. Floyd was not at my residence. I was preparing for the next morning to go to work. I don't park my patrol car on the grass. I normally keep my car parked on the driveway. Mr. Floyd's car was actually parked where I normally keep my car parked on the driveway. So because his car was still there and the tow truck had not come, I had not made contact with them, I had to park my car on the other side of the driveway, my patrol car.
So Ms. Carney, in other words, you did not move your patrol car during a dispute to block his car? Is that your testimony?
That's correct. It had absolutely nothing to do with our dispute. I was simply moving my patrol car to prepare for work the next morning and put it back on the driveway. The patrol car is actually damaged and has a gap in the back door that allows for bugs and water to get inside the vehicle. Keeping it parked on the grass overnight would have allowed for bugs and stuff to get inside the vehicle. Then I would have had to address that the next morning. So that's why I don't park the car on the grass overnight or at any time. So I was moving the vehicle back. Unfortunately, it was that early in the morning because we spent 6 hours at the ER Sunday night to Monday morning. Otherwise, the car would have already been placed back on my driveway.
Did you or did you not offer to move the patrol car when the officers were on the scene?
I advised them that I was in the process of moving my patrol car out of the way when I came out of the house and saw Mr. Floyd in his vehicle attempting to move his vehicle on my driveway past the patrol car. And when I attempted to move the vehicle, Mr. Floyd continued to back forward and back, placing myself in danger and the vehicle itself in danger of being struck by his vehicle. And again, when Mr. Floyd, I actually blew the horn to get his attention for him to stop so that I could continue moving the vehicle out of the way and park it, but instead he got out of his vehicle and approached the driver door of my vehicle and opened the door, and at that point grabbed me by the arm and tried to get me to get out of the vehicle. Yes, ma'am.
Do you have keys to Mr. Clooney's vehicle?
No, ma'am.
You did not have keys
No,
to the
ma'am.
vehicle to be able to move?
Mr. Floyd's vehicle, no, ma'am.
Pretty good.
And so, no one ordered you to move the car, correct?
That's correct.
What was the order that they gave you?
Lieutenant Long asked for the keys. And when he asked for the keys, I asked him, what keys are you speaking of? And he said, the keys to your patrol vehicle. I turned to open the patrol car. I actually had a key fob. And I hit the key fob to unlock the door to get in the vehicle, to move the vehicle. And he began yelling, I said, give me the keys. And at that point is when I turned back around to address him and hand him the keys to the vehicle. he just was barking, give me the, I said, give me the keys. I said, give me the keys. And when he asked for the keys, of course, like I stated, I initially went to open the car door to get in the car to move the car. But I was never asked by, or told, or instructed, or ordered by either Sergeant Wazorek, Lieutenant Long, or any of the other officers that arrived on the scene to move the patrol car. They never even asked me why the patrol car was parked there to begin with.
Any more questions?
I'll ask you a question. Why was the patrol car parked there to begin with?
I was moving the vehicle before Mr. Floyd actually came onto the property. That's after he had walked about 2.3 miles, I believe, from Northview Christian Church back to my home. So he wasn't even at the home at the time when I started to move the vehicle back onto my driveway. I stopped. I had to stop the vehicle in order to back my personal car back into the garage. And when I shut the garage door down to come back through the house to come back outside to move the car onto the driveway, Mr. Floyd had made it back to my home.
You didn't have, why was the car parked where it was parked behind Mr. Floyd's car?
Again, I was in the process of moving the car from the grass back onto the driveway, and I pulled out and stopped behind Mr. Floyd's car. I couldn't pull it out and park it because I had to back my own personal car into my driveway first and then shut the
Where
door.
was your personal car?
I'm sorry.
Where was your personal car?
At the time,
Yes.
well, at the time I was in my personal car when I came back to the home.
And where'd you park it when you came back to the house?
Board,
Into
can you help
the
if we
garage.
have her point out on the
Well, she got a
diagram?
picture, yes, you
Yeah.
can lay all
Why
that
don't
out.
we do that? Okay, first of all, where was the patrol car?
My patrol car was actually parked here at an angle, backed onto the grass.
Okay,
Okay, Mr. Floyd's car was parked here,
right.
and I was on my personal car.
Now, where did you park your car when you got back to the house?
When I came back to the house, I pulled into the garage in my personal car, backed all the way into the garage.
Do you have an automatic lock on your garage door,
Door opener?
door opener?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you opened the door and pulled into the garage?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay. At that time, I went inside, got the keys to my patrol car, and then I came back out and I moved the patrol car from the grass and I pulled out to this point here. And when I had taken Mr. Floyd his clothing items, Mr. Floyd was much closer to my home than I expected him to be. So I stopped and left the car here and locked the car, got back into my personal car, and drove down the street to where the fire department sits at the corner of State Avenue and Ross Clark Circle, because I wanted to make sure that Mr. Floyd was not trying to come to my home. When I got down to the corner, again, on my personal car, Mr. Floyd was almost at that intersection of State Avenue and Ross Clark Circle. When he turned the corner, coming to my house, I said, please don't come to my house. There are no hotels on this street. Please just go get a hotel so there won't be any further conflict. I don't want to have to call the police to have you removed from my property. Mr. Floyd did not respond. He continued past me towards my home. I got back in my personal car, drove back over to my home, pulled my car into the garage, shut the garage door because my animals are on this side of the garage. You cannot park a car in there.
I'm saying.
I went in up the stairs because there's no exit point from my garage to allow me to come back out to the driveway. I went up the staircase into the home. Before I could make it to the front door and open the door to come back out to finish parking the car from this point over here, Mr. Floyd was already in his vehicle attempting to move the vehicle back and forth, nearly striking the patrol car. So when I came out the front door and saw that taking place, I came out to about right here and said, stop before you strike that patrol car. You're gonna have more problems than just an argument with me if you damage that patrol car. You're gonna face criminal charges. He stopped the car's movement. I walked from this point here, got into the patrol car, put the car in drive, started to drive off the driveway to back the car in. Mr. Cloyd started moving the vehicle again as I started to pull forward. When he started moving the vehicle again, I blew the horn to get his attention to say, stop, you're getting very close to this car. And I was actually saying that, but of course he could not hear me.
And it was during this process that he actually knocked over a planter.
That's
on your
correct. The planter
property.
was here, and he had struck the planter. At the time, I didn't know he had actually struck that planter. I just know that he was within inches of the patrol car. He got out of the vehicle and then walked around to the driver's door of this car, and I would imagine that the patrol car probably at that point was closer to here, because I was trying to move the vehicle out of the way. And Mr. Cloyd came around and opened the car door and then grabbed me by the arm and pulled me twice and said he wanted to talk to me. And I said, no. I said, stop pulling on me. This car is in drive. And he said, well, put the car in park and let's go inside and talk. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. He then said, well, I guess I'm going to have to call the police department in order to get my car. And I said, you can call whomever you like. So when he said, I'm going to call the police, I put the car in park, locked the door, and waited for the police to arrive. I didn't move the car any farther.
I got all that. Let me ask you one question. When you got back in the car and proceeded forward, all you had to do was pull out there on the curb. What do you think would have happened had you pulled out there on the curb?
Mr. Cloyd was actually backing his vehicle when I went to move the patrol
I just
car.
asked you, when you were in the car, moving forward, rather than stopping, if you had pulled out on the curb, what, in your opinion, do you think would have happened?
I think Mr. Cloyd would have backed his vehicle out and left the property.
Okay. Thank you.
Can I make you understand, when Mr. Cloyd started moving his vehicle, he was very close to the patrol car, and I was in fear that the vehicles would have collided with one another, with both of them moving vehicles at the exact same time. So that is why I blew the horn to get his attention for him to stop, so that there would not be any collisions between either vehicle.
And one final question, Mrs. Carney. Major Parrish, Lieutenant Long, Sergeant Derrick, neither one of those guys ordered you to move that vehicle.
No, sir.
Ms. Carney.
You will say that under oath. No one.
I have no
ordered you-
reason to lie, Mr. Tyson.
You just said it's under oath.
He's testifying under oath.
Okay. So you're calling Miss Officer Schulmerich, Sergeant Wizerack, and Lieutenant Scott Long, calling all three of those people liars.
Yes, sir. And as far as them saying they told me to move the vehicle, none of them told me to move the vehicle.
Ms. Carney, at any time during your altercation, and I understand that you didn't want him on your property, okay? But at any time did you ask him for the key to the car so that you could move his car onto the street, onto the public street, to let him get his car, put his keys in the car, and let him leave?
No, ma'am. I never asked him for the keys to his vehicle.
Okay, and that would have kept him from coming on your property, but you did not ask him?
No, ma'am. I did not ask him. I actually advised the officers that I was not going to get into his vehicle for fear of him saying that I did something to damage the vehicle while I was inside it. So, like I said, I was trying to avoid any conflict or any allegation that I did something improper towards his vehicle or his property while it was on my property.
Did a tow truck ever show up?
No, ma'am. When I called the first company, I got the voicemail. When I called the second company while the officers were there on scene, the tow truck operator advised me that their boss or owner would not allow them to come out in those type circumstances. He referred me to a third company. I was not able to contact that third company due to the interaction with the officers at that time. I did ask the police officers, would they call a tow truck company for me if they did not trust that I had attempted to make contact with the tow company, and they would not call them.
Thank you.
Do you have any more questions of Ms. Carney?
Only this question. Clerk Carney, have you ever been on a domestic call?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you kind of describe what the normal protocol for a domestic call is?
Normally, as was stated by Officer Schumbrick, 2 officers are normally dispatched to a domestic situation. You have a primary officer and a secondary officer as a backup officer. And that's the protocol for an officer officers being dispatched to domestics. And unless there is a report of persons with injury, weapons being used, or there's altercation that can be heard by the dispatchers at the time of the call, which would give them the indication that it was an ongoing situation that required more than 2 officers to respond, then only 2 officers would be dispatched to that call.
But none of that criteria was present during this dispute.
None of that was present, no.
How would you characterize this dispute? Was this just a major blowout? Was this a minor civil dispute? How would you describe it?
As a civil dispute between myself and Mr. Floyd that could have been handled between Mr. Floyd and myself.
Now, on these domestic calls that you've been on as a designated police officer, have you ever been in a situation where you required backup?
Yes.
And explain the types of situation in which you would have requested backup.
When there's a physical altercation where we have to separate the parties involved, and if it's to the point where we need assistance from other officers to handle the crowd of other parties that might be showing up or getting themselves involved in the situation, if the officer is being in some way assaulted during the incident, then we would request for additional officers to come and assist us in that call.
Have you ever had difficulty getting backup on a domestic call?
Well, I've been on calls where I've requested assistance and 1 officer might show up versus 6 that showed up in this particular case.
When the night of this incident, do you feel like the officers on the scene were seriously investigating your claims of trespass on behalf of Mr. Floyd?
No, I do not feel that at all.
Do you believe that they seriously investigated your claims of physical aggression on the part of Mr. Floyd?
No.
What did it seem like was the most important thing to them in response to this call?
That their primary reason was to find some fault of mine to get me terminated from my employer.
Now, the city previously introduced some photos, copies of them. One of your arm, here we go. One of your arm and one of this planter. How did these photos come about being taken?
Because I asked them were they going to take any pictures of the injuries to my person or the damage to my property during this entire incident. That was not something that was decided by one of the officers or the supervisors that were on scene.
So, are you saying that you were having to prod them to perform any type of investigation into your claims?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
No further questions.
Ms. Carney, you testified that you never refused a direct order. Is Is that your testimony?
When are you speaking?
Are you testifying that you never refused a direct order on this occasion?
On this occasion, no, I did not refuse a direct order.
Okay. Did you argue with him?
No, sir, I did not argue.
Okay. When Sergeant Long told you to give him the keys, what did you say?
I actually turned to open the car door to get in the car to move the car.
Didn't you say to what?
I asked him to what, yes, for him to clarify.
And then you said he's still not coming in my yard?
I did tell him that Mr. Floyd was not going to come into my yard.
Okay. And then he asked you again, or told you again, give me your keys, and you said, I'm asking him not to come in my yard? He's already put his hands on me? And then again he said, give me your keys right now, and he said, yes, sir. You said, yes, sir, he's still not coming in my yard? And then he said, yes, he is, and you said, no, he's not? Are you telling this board you didn't argue with him when you got a direct order to give him the keys?
I didn't argue with him.
You didn't argue with him? Are you aware it's on tape?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. So the tape is manufactured?
By who?
I mean, if it's on tape that you argue with him and you're telling us you didn't argue, tell us how that works.
I didn't argue with him.
Okay. Did you disobey a direct order to get out of the way of the car when you jumped or stood behind Mr. Floyd's vehicle?
No, sir.
You didn't? Were you told get out of the way and you said, but I'm on my property? You didn't say that?
I did make that comment, yes.
Okay. But that's not refusing an order.
No, sir, it's not.
It's not arguing either.
No, sir, it's not.
Okay. But you stayed right where you stood.
I was on my property, that's
Okay.
correct.
And that's not disobeying an order.
No, sir, it's not.
Ms. Carney, were you on duty?
No, ma'am, I was not.
You were off duty,
Yes, ma'am.
an off-duty private citizen
Yes, ma'am.
who was the victim of a domestic incident.
Yes, ma'am.
No further questions.
Is that the basis for your contention that you didn't disobey was because it was an unlawful order? Is that what you're saying?
No, sir, I'm saying I was not on duty for Lieutenant.
Okay,
Long
now
to
you've
give me
already
an order.
said you weren't given an order. Now you're saying that you weren't on duty.
I clearly stated that from the beginning. I
Right.
was not on duty, so he had no authority to give me a lawful order as it related to my official police duties.
But you've had two board members directly ask you if you were given an order and you said no.
I wasn't.
Okay, that's all.
Ms. Carney, I'm going to show you the case of Fuquay versus City Council of Ozark. And this is an Alabama Civil Court of Appeals case. I'd like for you, please, to read this paragraph that has been marked.
Insubordination has been defined, quote, as the refusal to obey some order which a superior officer is entitled to give and entitled to have obeyed, so long as such order is reasonably related to the duties of the employee, end quote.
Were you on duty?
No, I was not.
Thank you. No further questions.
Could you please give me that case once again? I didn't
Yes,
hear
it is Susan Fuquay versus City Council of Ozark. It is a 1990 Court of Civil Appeals of Alabama case. Yes, I'll mark that as Plan Exhibit 2.
So, any more questions from Ms. Carney?
No, sir.
Board?
No further questions.
Okay. Call your next witness, Mr. White.
See, we'd have Taiwan Truitt, Officer Taiwan Truitt. I'll give you.
Mr. White, is it okay if we take a 5-minute break?
Certainly. Thank you.